We're going live. Tech Talk Tuesday. Hey, Mark. Lance. How's it going, Lance? James. Michael. Thomas. Good to see you guys. Jackie Bryce. I don't know why Jackie 24/7 Tech Talk. She's Tech Talk 24/7. Can you hear me okay, everybody? I think there's about, there you go, Lonnie and John and Steph, Charlie. Yeah, I see you guys. Good stuff. At 6 o'clock, I'm going to start talking a little bit more about what we talk about. Hi, Scott, Tony, Doug, Thomas. Camshafts, very important subject. Airflow, the timing of it all, very important. Hey, Larry, Ken, Brent, Brad. Man, it's so awesome to see some of you guys come on here and check in. I had a great trip to California and went out there to do some voiceover work with Mav TV and the Jack Corpella and of course the late, I guess not late, I was late. Larry McBride was there too doing voiceover. Hey, Stuart, Jimmy, William. We had a good deal. We had 3 TV shows to cover from the Man Cup. It's a big race, man. And I was so thankful that Mav TV and Jack Corpella came out and filmed it for us. So I don't know exactly when all that's coming on, but that'd be news coming out soon. But somebody said you're getting better at this. Yeah, just like learning, man. Just like learning. I learn every day. I still write pretty bad. Yeah, but at the top of my page, you guys see long cam, short cam, poor flow, great flow. Those are very, very generalized deals. And I want to talk to you for a minute about the folks out there that shop for cams and read about cams and talk about cams. And this is Mitch Brown asked me today, he said, why do all of the engines you talk about post and all the pictures you put up only have like 2 cylinders? And that was I know he's being a little silly, but the way we do engines is each cylinder is important in itself. It's like a family. Everybody's important. But a 1-cylinder has only got one guy to ask for help. It's got a crankshaft rotating with 1 cylinder, 720 degrees on a 4-stroke. It has suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Those are the 4 strokes. One is 180 degrees rotation. The piston goes down, sucks in the mixture. 180 degrees it goes up and compresses the mixture, then it lights, and then 180 degrees later it takes to fire and rotate the crank in a positive direction, and then it has another 180 degrees to push the exhaust out. Hey, Chris and Jason and Vince. So those 4 strokes add up to 720 degrees. So imagine a poor single-stroke engine, which we love. If you're a motorcycle guy, man, you love riding some of them big singles. And that deal goes bang, and then it coasts and coasts, and then bang, and then it coasts and coasts. And there's nobody helping. It's just one guy. It's like a family with one person in it. And then you got all the way up to the V12s, like in some of the Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and V10s and V8s. There's so many participating members of the family to rotate the crankshaft. And on a V-twin, it's a really strange firing order that we'll talk about another day, but just know that if you have more people pulling and turning and helping, so you end up with more. Even like a V8 it fires every 90 degrees, and unless it's a 180 degree crank. But I want to tell you my opinion of short stroke and long stroke. Okay. Well, I said that wrong. Long cam and short cam. Wow, I was thinking about boring stroke. Anyway, the long cam, people shop because of lift. They say, well, I'd have a 550 cam and I want a 650 cam, and then that one's got a 680 and that's got a 690 lift. Those lifts are, to me, those are the least important parts of a camshaft. It's the events, which is if a cam is long or short. And if you saw somebody says, well, this is a short cam, well, to the average guy, he would think that means it has low lift. That's not the case. You can have a 600 lift long cam and you can have a 600 lift short cam. And that means how long the valve is open. A long cam means the valve is open for a long time, and a short cam means the valve is open for a short time. And this is relatively speaking. Now, also when I say poor flow and great flow, I'm talking about potential, like a stock head, like a bone stock Harley head, or an old Impala 327, or a 289 Mustang. Those old heads are poor flowing heads. After they're modified, and after somebody does a lot of work to them, and they do some great work, put big valves and grind them out and make them flow. I know Chris does a lot of hand work. Boy, what a tedious job. I know Ron here every day for over 30 years, he does hand work, and there's a lot of labor going into getting a poor flowing head turned into a great flowing head. But it gives us the old time and area. And I know I was talking to a fellow on the phone today. He was talking about time and area. What does that mean, time and area? And when you're doing the 4 strokes of the engine, when the intake valve opens and the piston goes down on the intake stroke, there's only so much time for it to fill with mixture. And then you better close the valve before you start compressing it, because then if you don't, it'll push it all back out the intake. And then you want it to light after it's compressed, and then you want it to go bang, and you want the piston to go down, and you want it to turn the crankshaft really, really hard. And then when it gets, after it does the bang and pushes the piston down and rotates the crank, then you want to open the exhaust valve and then push all the exhaust out. So there's a lot of compromise and compensation. I've got these comments, these terms written down here, and we'll go over that real short. But the long cam, going to compression, okay? A long cam means the valves are open for a while, and you can run more static compression ratio with a long cam. If you have a short cam, you have to run less static compression. I'll tell you why in a minute. If you have a poor flowing head, you have to run more compression to make the best power. And if you have a great flowing head, you're probably going to need less compression. And that sounds a little, contradictory in a way, but the compression ratio is a static measurement where we go over here and we figure the bore and the stroke gives us the cubic inches of the engine, and then when you shove it all to the top into this small chamber, I'll give you an example. This is a 100cc chamber and a 1000cc cylinder with the bore and stroke figured out. So when you shove 1000 cc's into a 100cc area, that gives you a 10-to-1 compression ratio. That's just math. 10:1, or 1,000 into 100. That's 10. That goes 10 times. So that's how I get 10-to-1. Now that I doubt myself sometimes and I question myself, is because I don't know everything about all this. I know what I think I know, and I'm sharing it with you live. So please let me give you a real quick disclaimer. These are my opinions, and they are subject to change. My engine rules only last for about 7 days, because things we learn a lot so fast. So we have to be adjustable. Like, you got to be ready to change. If you don't change, you're going to get stuck at the same power, the same settings. One guy called me today and was telling me that his engine builder told him that he has to set the lash at the same place on the degree wheel every time. And he said that the cam that he uses has to close the valve at 80 degrees after bottom. And if you try to move it anywhere else, it won't make any power. Well, I think that guy's pretty much stuck at whatever he's got, because we work on engines here at the shop every day, and we have closing numbers on the seat. I'm not talking about 50 off the seat, or 50 before it closes, or 50 after it opens. I'm talking about on the seat, maybe at 50 degrees after top, all the way to 90 degrees after top. So you got to be pretty adjustable to work on a lot of stuff. And yes, Mitch, I'm talking about one cylinder, not 2, not 4, not 6, not 8, not 12. I'm talking about one cylinder. Cool thing is with a V8 is 8 of these one cylinders hooked to one crankshaft to help it rotate smoothly and evenly. Back to the compression ratio. Okay, so let's just say we did 10-to-1. Now, imagine, if you will, if we were running a 10-to-1 compression ratio and we had a set of heads that were great flowing, and it would get in its amount of time to get the air and fuel into the engine, more would go in than it would if it was a poor flowing head. Tell me you get that. That's what it's all about. A head that flows great gets more in the same amount of time than a head that flows poor. What would happen if you put more airflow and more air and fuel into a 10-to-1 engine, or if you put less air and fuel into a 10-to-1 engine? I see you guys, Chuck, Spencer, Michael, Scott. So we're going to talk about static compression ratio today, so we can just use that as a benchmark or a measuring point. Because in real life, somebody just mentioned dynamic compression. Yeah, dynamic compression is what happens when this is running and you get this amount more airflow in at the same 10-to-1 static versus poor airflow in with the same 10-to-1 static. One of them's going to make more power. That's why great flowing heads are awesome. Now, remember my 720 degrees of rotation to get the 4 strokes. Well, with a long cam, it's going to use up more time with the valve open. It's going to open early. It's going to close late, which gives you more duration. And if you have a low compression, low static compression with a long cam, which means it opens early and closes late, it's going to be really lazy down low, and it's going to be a peaky engine. That means it's going to make more power at higher RPM and less overall power everywhere. If it's a short cam and you have 10-to-1, you're going to open the valve later and you're going to close the valve sooner, so therefore it can get the air in at a more advantageous time. So then we're going to be able to have more static compression ratio because it's all time and area. Now, the compromise that we have to deal with, because people every day, they're like, well, what compression ratio are you going to sell me? What pistons are you going to sell me? What's my heads? What CC heads is going to give me what compression ratio? Compression ratio is a big compromise, and it's based on fuel, octane, and quality, and then, of course, the temperature. Because if you've got really hot air going into your engine, it's going to be easier to combust than cold air. Also, if you have low octane fuel, it's going to combust earlier with low octane, and if it's a high octane fuel, it's going to combust later. And I'm talking about the time of combustion. I want to move this little camera over so maybe you can see this. Compensation. We can compromise with, if we have a low compression engine, we can put a shorter cam in it and get more trapping. And trapping is what it's all about with cams, trapping the air fuel mixture. So what's going to be cool with this is the time on combustion. That's the timing. I drew a chart for you guys one day, and I hope maybe you can see this one. If you can't, maybe we'll blow it up a little bit. I don't know how to really get closer to it. This top dead center, everything to the left is before top dead center, everything to the right is after top dead center. And for us to make the right amount of power dynamically, a lot of cylinder pressure, is you're going to have to light the spark at the right time. Timing is everything. On cam timing, ignition timing, is everything to make power. If you want power at low RPM, you want power at high RPM, you got to get the right cam timing and you got to get the right ignition timing. And our goal is more PSI. You can get more cranking compression, more cylinder pressure while it's running at the RPM you want. You have to pick out the RPM you want. You have to pick out where you're going to run this engine. Are you going to run it at 14,000, 3,000, 4,000, wherever you want to run it? You got to build all this stuff to compromise. You have to compromise power early to get it late. You got to compromise power late to get it early. You got to use a compromise. And you're going to have to compensate. It's not just that simple. You have to compensate everything around it to take advantage of either one of those. So goals are important. I talked about last week or week before is you got to figure out where you want to be, because if you just go on the internet and buy the cam of the day, the piston of the day, the cylinder heads of the day, or the combination du jour, you're going to end up with a pretty crappy running program, because it's just a compromise of a bunch of parts that don't match. Reversion. A lot of people ask me about reversion. And these are opinions of mine now, guys. Got to go back to the opinion. Reversion. There's a couple different places it happens. And these are opinions. One is when the intake valve's still open and the piston's coming up after it did the intake stroke. And you got a cam that's so long, duration-wise, the intake valve is closing late and the piston's coming back up. And at some speed prior to peak power, the mixture that you just drew into the engine is backing back out of the open intake that's open too long. That gives you really poor low-end power, low RPM power. Another time that I see reversion is at any RPM when the exhaust system is full. It's kind of a goofy looking picture I imagine it would be if I drew it, but I'm going to try right here. We got the intake coming in here, and we got the exhaust going out here. And when you got this piston going down and the intake valve's open and you got the intake coming in, and then you get it squeezes, it comes back up with both valves shut. It squeezes it, and then the spark plug lights. When the spark plug lights, it fires. Bang! Piston goes down. Then the exhaust valve opens, and then the piston turns around and comes back up and pushes the exhaust out. Okay? What happened when this exhaust port is small, the exhaust pipe is small, and the exhaust system is small, or too long, or too small, it will fill up. And when the exhaust fills up at some RPM, at 4,000, starts backing up. And when it gets all the way full on overlap, that's when both intake valves open and both exhaust valves are open. It starts coming back out the intake. That's when the exhaust system is too full. So that's why it's also a compromise. Got small pipes, long pipes, you got such and such a pipe kit, headers, whatever, and make more torque at 3,000 RPM. Well, it's not going to do good at 6,000 because it's going to be full. And this is a quote that I believe with all my heart is, once the exhaust system is full, no more air will go in the engine. I know you've heard me say that before, but if your exhaust system is full, it doesn't matter if you put 2 valves, 4 valves, 6 valves, no valve, big cam, little cam. Once the exhaust system is full, it doesn't matter. No more is going in. The only way you can get more in the engine when the exhaust system is full is to use a supercharger, a turbocharger, or a nitrous kit. And these are opinions, y'all. I don't know. It's not always popular. Opinions aren't, but you can stuff more in there and make more come out the exhaust. I had a supercharged tow truck one time, a dually, and I had a supercharger on it, and I had Flowmasters and super traps on the tips, and I blew the plates off the super traps because once the exhaust system was full, no more air would go in. So the boost is when more is in than will fit normally aspirated. So 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, that's after it's full. That's the pressure you put on top of all that will go. Now, you guys that are running, there's some top fuel guys watching here that run 50 pounds of boost. They would be able to make, in my opinion, more power on less boost if they didn't fill up the exhaust system so quick. There's some guys out there going really fast with small exhaust pipes, small exhaust ports, small exhaust cams, small exhaust valves. And the NHRA guys are limited. The rules will not let them put a bigger valve in. They won't let them put a bigger pipe on. They've got that whole port. I guess it's a rule, so they can't add more. And it pours back out the intake. So how do you know it's full? That's trial and error. That's experimentation. But I know some guys that had an engine that was really fast. They ran 50 pounds of boost, and we did a cylinder head for them. And it went faster, made more power, but it ran less boost, and they got mad. They said, man, we were running 50, and now we're running 45 pounds of boost with this new head. And we need 50 pounds of boost. Even though they were going faster and making more power, they didn't understand that making more boost meant they had to heat the air up more and work the crankshaft harder. They had to work engine harder to spin the supercharger enough to get more boost in it. That's not the goal. The goal is to make more power, not to make more boost. That's just my opinion, like I said. But remember, the compression ratios, it's a compromise with fuel and temperature. And then, of course, you have to compensate for it when you have more or less of it. And it's all about combustion, and the goals are to make more cylinder pressure. And there's lots of ways to do it. There's lots of different versions. And about this cylinder pressure sheet I drew here, I want to tell you about it real quick. You can get detonation. This is what this little is. That's where the pressure went up too high, too fast, and it had too much cylinder pressure too soon. 15, 20, 30, 45 degrees after top to center. The only way you can get rid of that is add octane, reduce the temperature, or turn the timing down, which means start it later. Like this chart right here at too early. We lit it off too soon, like at 45 degrees instead of 30 degrees, and it rose in pressure until it overheated the mixture and it lit before the spark plug. So that means this thing's pre-igniting or self-igniting, and it will blow the head, it will blow the crank out the bottom, it'll break rods, it'll blow the head gaskets, and it's destruction, always destruction. So if you have one that's too late, like you start the spark at 15 instead of 30, for instance, please let me say this real quick. I'm not telling you 30 is the right number. It's whatever the number is, 45 to 15, somewhere in here, to light the spark plug before top dead center so that you get the peak cylinder pressure in a controlled manner at the right spot in the rotation of the crankshaft to put the most effort onto the piston and rotate the crank. If it lights off too soon, you will get detonation and it will spike up too soon. If you start it off too late, like at 15 degrees, you just don't ever hardly make much pressure at all, and it doesn't make any power. The goal is to find this number. People say, how do you know what the timing should be set at? Well, you got to move it up and down. I saw somebody today put on Facebook, they said, how do you know when the timing's right? And he said, when you burn up pistons, you back it off 2 degrees. That was actually pretty funny, but that could be based on the day, the temperature, a lot of quality to do with the air, the atmosphere we're running in. Yes, that's great, Dave. Boost is a measurement of restriction. Yes, it is. If it's no boost and it's all the way full, then your volumetric efficiency is pretty topped out, and you want more than that. You got to trap more mixture. So you got to get the cam timing right, compression ratio right, and you got to get the boost higher and higher and make sure you add fuel to it and trap it so you can actually make more than 100% volumetric efficiency. But back to this timing curve, this is why timing is so important. And remember, gasoline, 99% of us run gasoline, okay? Maybe it has some ethanol in it. Maybe it has some methanol in it. Maybe you're running M1, M5, or some whatever, that C85, whatever. Maybe you're running some of that, or maybe you're running nitro or methanol. But all of it has the right timing, and all of them are different numbers. Just like the cam timing, they're all going to be different numbers. Everybody needs something different. But when you squeeze it and it ignites before the spark plug lights off, that's called uncontrolled combustion, and that's what tears up engines. And I don't know anything about nitro other than it'll tear up anything. I mean, somebody says, how do you tear up a steel ball? How do you tear up an anvil? I'd say nitro will help you do that. There's some guys on here watching right now, friends of mine, some aren't friends of mine, but I see you guys watching. Y'all know about nitro way more than I do. It's an interesting subject to me because it's really kind of uncontrolled, and a lot of people have tried to control it over the years, and something's wrong with it if you have to be able to talk to Homeland Security to even own some. You know it's something crazy, right? But anyway, this is a lot of cool stuff. I want to share real quick about Hogs Gone Wild. We have the first race of the year, February 28th and 29th. It's going to be at Silver Dollar Dragway in Reynolds, Georgia. It's for baggers mostly. There are some classes for everybody. We're going to have ET classes so you can bring your booster, your 14s, or whatever you got. Slick and wheelie bar bikes that can all run ET. But we're going to have some really cool classes. Hogs Gone Wild. I just put HGW to remind me to tell you about it. And I thought we'd do a minute maybe we could do a little question and answer session. I got 5 more minutes left. I want to see, starting right now, somebody say they heard me say right now. I want to see how much time there is. What time behind are you guys behind my words? Come back to me. Wow. 20 seconds so far. Come on. I see you guys falling off. Somebody holler at me. There you go. Wow, that was 30 seconds back. All right, give me some questions. Hey, Greg. Hey, Lonnie, Devin, Napa, California, David. Great for you guys to tune in and see this. Got some questions. Anybody need the answer? Like I said, I got a few minutes. I see. I type slow. Yeah, me too. That's why I have to draw some pictures ahead of time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. And I try to make it interesting where it'll be stuff that you wanted to learn about or you already knew about. Like me, I like a little bit of feedback where, hey, Benny, that's a guy that knows a lot right there. And Henry and Larry, Dave. I know some people that that need reinforcement on their beliefs to help make great decisions. I mean, I have some mentors that I like to ask opinions from to help me, like if I'm trying to go the right way or the wrong way, and I like other people's opinions to help me know that. Nice turnout today. Thank you guys. I'll try to keep this interesting as we go. Don't be ashamed. With more cam overlap, can you run more compression? I would say typically that's right. Overlap is not as important as people give it credit for. In my opinion, it's more tuned into when the intake valve closes. If you have one that closes late, you can run more compression. The reason why I think that is as you put more lift in one, typically you have to add duration because we can't have a steeple for a cam lobe. That's something to talk about another day. But if you have a pointy cam, you're trying to get duration out of a lot of lift. But remember, we have to start at no lift and we have to go to full lift in a very short period of time. And then we have to go back from full lift to closed in a very short period of time. So the more lift you add, the more duration. You have to give it a head start to get there and a head start to get back. It can't be a light switch. We all would wish that we'd open the valve to full lift instantly and go to full close instantly, but that would be 700 lift with 10 degrees duration. Well, it wouldn't even crank up before it crashed all the parts. It's got to be smooth. The lifter's got to stay on the camshaft. The roller has to stay on the camshaft, and the rocker arm has to stay on the push rod, and the push rod has to stay in the engine. I know that many cams, varying specs from Proclaim. Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff there. There's so many ways to measure one. People have 10 degrees lift duration, 20, 30, 40, 50. Some people use 53 degrees lift for their opening and closing numbers. Some people do what they call advertising duration. It's very confusing. So at Star Racing Power, we like to use 50 lift off the seat and 50 lift before closing as our checking numbers for the events. That's a great point, Scott. Hey, send me questions. If you can't want to do it right here live, I understand. It's pretty scary live because it's easy to get people make fun of you. And, in this PC world today where people are worried about getting their feelings hurt or hurting somebody else's feelings, not so much. But I'm okay. I'm good. I love sharing this idea. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not sick. The reason I'm sharing is just that I've stored this stuff up for a long time and I'm learning so fast every day. I'd love to purge some of this info off on interested people. And I see on Tuesdays you guys click in here and watch. And yeah, there's some statements, but not really questions. I see Scott, John, Brian. But thank you. I see we're out of time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the questions. I got great ideas today when I hit you up on Facebook and said, what would you like to talk about? I got some great ideas. Matter of fact, I got enough good ideas for us to talk about next time. But please understand how thankful I am for you guys to check in. And I really appreciate it. And I'm thankful that I was able to live this long and work on this many years and learn. Told somebody today, came to visit, and I told him, I said, hey, man, I'm lucky that I got to work in racing engines for 40 or 50 years and pay attention. A lot of people work for years in a type job and they don't pay attention. And it's hard to learn when you're not paying attention. But it's really important to me, so I'm really learning a lot still today. Even at 65, I'm learning. But thank y'all so much. I see some of the questions coming in late, but time's up. PM me, email me, george@starracing.com. Look at my Facebook page. I have Star Power is a good one about these Hot Rod Harley engines. Also, I'm on Instagram. I think it's called George Bryce Star, I think. And then, of course, this page now. Thankful. I love to share. Thankful for you guys watching. May God bless y'all and take care of each other because we're all we got. Y'all be careful. Talk soon.